Alright, so I accidentally shut off the camera in the last one, so this will be in 2 videos. Alright, so we just finished going all the way around our first of our 2 towel tops. I'm clipping off all my threads. There are extra ones because I had to restart in the middle of it. So this is what you should ultimately end up with. Something along this line. Lay it out nice and flat. Right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to clip all of the little corners and tabs. So like here, we're going to, some fuzz on me, clip off the point, but making sure you don't go so far as to cut into the thread. I like to do these ones on the sides here too. And then on these ones down here, we're going to clip into the fabric, but make very carefully sure that you do not clip through your thread. What this does is once we turn it right side out, it helps the fabric fold over on itself much better. So I'm going to clip these ones. You can, in theory, do a more rounded pattern, and that way you don't have as many corners. It's up to you. I happen to like this shape. It works nicely for me, but again, be creative, have a good time. Whatever makes you happy. Alright, so we turn it right side out, and then we're going to go and press it because this is one of those things that you want nice and crisp and pressed. So this is what we have on the outside before we press it. So I'm going to go press it and we'll come right back. Okay, so now we have both. I went ahead and did the second one while I was on camera. We have both of our towel tops stitched and turned right side out and pressed. Ultimately they'll end up doing this once we're done. So I've got both of them now. So I like to top stitch everything, especially if it's going to get used excessively like towels will. However, I will wait to top stitch until I have the towel put in. So our next step is going to be, we're going to take this, we're going to open up our sections here, and we're going to be working on one side. We're going to take this, and we're going to take our towel. I'm going to put my towel, the edge of my towel, I'm going to line it along with the seam of my towel top. Then on the other side, I'm going to take the edge of my towel, line it up with the seam, and pin that. Then I'm going to gather it. Now to do that, you can do a couple options. You can gather or you can pleat. Pleating's a little easier. I tend to find that gathering you get a better image on the picture, but it really depends what you're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my 2 pins there. I'm going to find the center of here and the center of here. I'm going to move those together and pin those. And ultimately, I'm not going to make you guys watch me pin this for the next 10 minutes, but that's what I'm going to do the whole way across. So I'm going to go now to this smaller section. I'm going to find the middle of each side. I'm going to fold them together, and I'm going to pin them there. And you're going to keep doing that until you can't do it anymore. This one, and you're going to put the pin right there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera. I'm going to finish this up so I have access to both my hands and I'm not talking silly the whole time. Once you get to here though, you can just sort of do this, press them together, make sure they're even at the top, and then pin them that way too. So I'll be going there. Then I'm going to be taking this small section here, and I'm going to be going to the center here. And I'm going to do it again on these. So see how tiny these are? I'm still going to find the center of the towel and line it up with the center of the brown fabric. And that's as far as I'm going to end up being able to go. So that's how close together all my pins are going to be on this side, okay? So again, on this one, next one here, find the middle of my towel and pin it into there. So this is what our pins are going to end up looking like all the way across. All right, so we'll come back as soon as we're done with that. Okay, so we've got both of them pinned now. I went ahead and did both. It will seem like an incredibly excessive amount of pins for something so small. That's okay. The more pins, the more likely that you're going to have even gathering ultimately. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lay this flat, keeping this flap out of the way. So I'm actually going to start about, the pins start here, I'm going to actually start about here stitching, just so that I make sure I have that out of the way, and we're just going to do straight stitch all the way across the bottom, across our pins and whatnot. I will repeat, back stitch, especially on something like this where you're going to end up having a lot of, it's going to be pulled on a lot. Make sure, go slow so you make sure you're not catching up the other side in it. Now again, I'm going to go past where my towel ends just so that I have a little leeway. Clip my threads, and it will look like this on one side and like this on the other. I'm going to go ahead and pull my pins out. We'll do this on both of them. I'm going to go ahead and pull my pins out, and then what will end up happening is this will stand up. We're getting there. Okay, so there's our coffee cups on there. Okay, so on the back, what we're going to end up doing is, I'm going to put this up here, folding under the edge, pinning it on top of your previous seam that we just made, and we're going to pin that there, and we're going to whip stitch it in place. Now, I'm going to end up, I know I've said before I hate hand stitching, and I do, that is a valid point. However, I don't want this to show up on the other side. Personally, you can. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having a straight stitch across the front. I mean, we're going to top stitch all the way around the rest of it. So you can do it by machine if you want. I don't know why, but I happen to like this part hand stitched. So I will end up doing a whip stitch on the back. And I will show you that in a few minutes. Make sure that all of the ends of your towel are up inside, and really you're just folding it down to about the same spot where the line of your stitching is from the other side, so that way everything ends up neatly covered, but it's not bunching up your fabric, or the sides are not too big. So what will end up happening is on the outside will look like this, on the inside it'll look like this. We're going to whip stitch this closed. Then you have a couple of options. Like I said, I like the snaps. You put the snap one part here, fold them over and attach them, and then you can put a snap there. You can do a button, button here, buttonhole on the tab. Either way you want to do it. I'm not going to be doing that today solely because this machine, I do not have the buttonhole foot set up on it, and it's on this machine that buttonhole thing is really complicated. On my newer machine it's easier, and I can show you that later. We'll end up doing probably several of these, but this is just to get us out there. So then what we're going to do is take our needle and thread, and for you guys I definitely recommend using a thread that's slightly closer in color to your fabric. I'm going to use the white so you can see what I'm doing. And because I've already used white on the other side, and I'm going to use white to top stitch it as well, because the towel is brown and white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here at the edge, and I'm going to go underneath the brown fabric with my needle. And all I'm going to do is come back to this side. I'm going to catch a little bit of the towel and a little bit of the brown fabric. And these are pretty small. You want them to be small so that it doesn't end up opening up on you and having to have it, and then you'll end up having the towel fray and stuff. So just going to go all the way across here. You can go across and back if you want. It's entirely up to you. I like to pull my pins out once I'm past them, just so that they're not in my way and I'm not stabbing myself. But you'll see, they don't have to be perfect, just, you know, little whip stitch. I will bring home my other, or at least break out one of my other machines and get it set up so that we can use that, since we will be doing buttonholes and things. I do like the simplicity of the machine that has just the straight stitch, and to be perfectly honest, I almost never use much more than that on a regular sewing machine, unless it is in fact buttonholes. Or I mean, I shouldn't say a regular sewing machine, I guess I should say a newer sewing machine, unless it's buttonholes, because I like my serger, which does my edges, which I will also be bringing home and setting up soon. Apparently getting my ring caught in my thread. Which is a whole nother thing. I will be doing in the near future a tutorial on how to do a French seam. So those are nice because even when you don't have something like a serger and you don't want to have the raw edges on your fabric, French seams are super easy. They sound far more complicated than they are. The biggest thing you have to worry about that is how much of a seam allowance you're using, because you're sewing on two sides of the fabric rather than just on the inside. But that will make far more sense when we actually do that tutorial. And as I've said in the past, I will probably do things and there will be people who sew all the time who see the videos and they're like, what? She's crazy, she's not doing that right. Which is very, very valid point. A great deal of what I do I've taught myself, so it might not be the appropriate way to do it, but I find that it tends to be an easier way for a lot of people to learn. I've been teaching sewing to adults with developmental disabilities for about 15 years now, and these are some of the tactics that tend to work with them. If you have a problem with something, let me know, and I will try to help you figure it out. I have learned how to sew in the dark because I have a blind student. We've done things like, I have some clients who only sew where pins are at, so we use an insane amount of pins, or we will draw a line for them to follow, or we will, I've actually even marked on the thread with Sharpie as to where the people are to stop sewing, because they'll sew way past where we have room to tie a knot, whatever. Do what you have to do. I mean, sewing isn't, there's no 100% rule. You have to do everything a certain way. So here we go. The back is now stitched. It's all closed up. So all we'd have to do is put our button and buttonhole or our snap or whatever we want on there, and you have a cute little hanging coffee towel. And there you go.